An animated film rises from the dead. David Zaslav, Public Enemy #1, and a little bit of Ted Lasso news. All that and more today on Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast.
Hello and welcome to Breaking Geek. What happened? I don't know. Was we supposed to point? Hello and welcome to Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast. Usually there's like a point. I don't know what's going on.
No, there's no point anymore after Jammer's done anymore.
There is no point anymore. Welcome to the show. This is Breaking Geek.
What up?
We're talking about what's going on. We're talking about stuff and things. Everything that Jammer already talked about. I don't know. It's been a while since we did this. And by a while.
In a skosh more.
What's an appropriate size for a skosh? Is that a teaspoon? Is that a tablespoon? What's a skosh?
That's a good question. It's just like, that the thing where if you make a little bit of difference over time, it is huge. It's like that equivalent. So imagine you're a spaceship launching off into space and you get just nudged a skosh off course. It's that much.
I was just going to say what made it so funny for me, Jonesy, was just because I can see you like watching the screen, and it was just this hilarious moment of the pause where I was like, he forgot he's supposed to go right after Jammer. That's what made it so funny for me. I know.
Dive right into it.
I know, right? It's been a while.
Jump right in. 2 feet deep into the fuck up. All right, you guys ready to talk about a movie?
Let's talk about it. I'm excited. This has been a movie I've been waiting for a long time, ever since it was first canceled. Let's just go ahead and dive right into it. I want to talk a little bit of history first.
All right.
History of Nimona. After my Nimona. Go ahead.
So a knight is framed for a crime he didn't commit. The only person who can help him prove his innocence is Nimona, a shape-shifting teen who might also be a monster he's sworn to kill. Based on a webcomic of the same name by N.D. Stevens, Nimona is directed by Nick Bruno, Troy Quayne. It stars Chloe Grace Moritz and Riz Ahmed. As of this recording, it sits as a 93 and a 93 on Rotten Tomatoes. We have an accord, Jammer. I know.
We do.
We have some agreement. Not you and I, the people.
We'll find out. We'll find out later if we agree at all. Or if
all
this
right,
is the worst animated film ever to animate.
Would you like to give your non-spoiler thread? We moved on from Toots. We're in thread territory now.
No, we're in Threads. I love it.
We're in Threads,
I
baby.
actually was thinking about that last night when I signed up on Threads. I was just like, are we going to get rid of the Mastodon thing on the podcast and just go Threads?
We're done.
We're
moving on.
We're
moving at the speed of social media.
I would say that this movie is a fulfilling and emotional ride with beautiful animation in spite of some minor narrative shortcomings that make the world maybe feel a little bit less than realized, but overall still a good one. That's my thread, even though it's a shitty thread. I'll give it, as far as my rating goes, I would probably give it a B+.
Okay. So my thread is that it is a beautifully animated and wonderfully acted film. Nimona is fun but predictable romp that the whole family can enjoy. So I think I'm about the same B+.
Part of it as well, where it's like, as far as predictability, it's like, we kind of know where it's going. Ish. I will say, for the first third of the movie, I was just like, where is this going? I have no idea where this is going. What's going on? Like, what are the arcs? What are the things here? And then once you're past a certain point, it's like, okay, this is where it's going. But it took me a bit, so maybe I wouldn't agree with that. It's completely predictable.
Well, and that's the thing. So let's jump on the spoilers, because the first thing that I would say is this. Is this a film for kids, or is this for adults, or is this like a Shrek? Where is this? Where would you put this?
It's funny you say Shrek, because literally as I was watching this is literally Shrek. Kind of. In terms of the message.
I don't know that I could tell you as I sat there and watched Shrek, like, this is where this is going. I don't know that I could say that. With this, from the opening, I was like, that person did it. Right? And so it was kind of like, all right, so now I'm just waiting to see where this is going to go. As I'm watching, I'm like, these people are in a relationship. She's the one that did it. And it's just like, I'm glad that Riz Ahmed and Chloe Grace were so good together that kind of overcame that. And it was so fun to look at, because it really did remind me of Arcane
Yeah.
That just
Yep.
popped on the screen. And so those narrative things, if you had told me that this was for kids, I think I would be more forgiving of the predictability. But yeah, given that you were like, it's basically Shrek, I'm like, all right, then fine, fuck it. The predictability is a problem for me.
I don't mind it too much. I mean, think about it this way: like people go into stories, they're like, I want these tropes. I think it's a well executed. It executes well on all of its tropes. There's nothing wrong with a story or a thing executing well on pre-established tropes, and I think this movie does it very well. I really felt for Nimona. I really felt for the night guy whose name escapes me. Like, I really got to like them as characters. Like you mentioned, their dynamic. Yes, their dynamic was really great together, and clearly that was the focus. That was where they put all of their energy into, the point where those things that you said, yeah, this person did it, this person did it, that stuff was kind of resolved earlier than I expected it to be. And that wasn't the conflict. It had more to do with the relationships. So I think that was clearly, it was very much just like, okay, no matter what, everything is going to revolve around the relationship between these two and their whatevers. And I think that made it a satisfying watch beyond just plot.
Yeah. I remember being mildly offended as I watched the beginning. I was like, oh, it's very interesting to me that they have this black queen. It's like, I'm going to democratize this thing, right? I'm going to take the classism out of it. And the white woman's like, fuck you. It's time for you to die, bitch. And I thought that was very fascinating.
I think we should give a spoiler warning. Let's move on into spoilers.
I said we're in spoilers.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I
was avoiding.
I was
avoiding
it.
All right, no, fine. But yeah, it's funny. How she's just like, no, not today.
No,
not today. Too progressive.
No. Director Karen's like, nah, fuck that. No, old way. I thought that was just like kind of interesting.
Makes sense. And so yeah, this is actually, I want to say the history for at the end, because I want it to be its own little its own thing.
Okay.
So let's talk about spoiler details before we get
So in addition to the animation, the thing that really stuck out to me that I really loved was the setting itself. So in addition to the relationship between the characters, we get this really cool mashup of basically Blade Runner and Camelot. And it's like, what would have happened if they wanted to honor the past and keep all of the things that made Camelot awesome, but they still progress to the Blade Runner future. And that was basically this, which I really dug. I don't like, just quickly scraping my brain, that's not something that I can recall, because even if you have something like Warhammer, right, where you have like these futuristic Knight Marines and you have these swords, or Warcraft, which doesn't seem as futuristic, like it's one or the other. And I thought that this did a really cool job of splitting the difference.
Yeah, it was definitely a unique world, and I was just like, oh, this is fun. I hadn't seen it either, because usually when you do go into like futuristic sci-fi, it leans heavy into the sci-fi, maybe not as much into the old stuff. This one was like just a fun mashup between the two type of things, and very different from what I've seen. And like I said, the animation really helped a lot. As you said, it kind of had that arcane feel to it, and not quite as stylized, but still very fun to look at. What was the moment that you thought, oh, this movie, it was something that you're interested? Because I went into it mostly cold. I didn't even know the premise. I knew the history, but I didn't know the premise of it. So I was like, I'm not really sure what to expect. Literally what it was is we woke up and I was just like, oh, hey, Nimona's on there. And all that I really known about it was that one teaser trailer at the beginning where it's like her drawings and stuff. And I'm not sure if you saw that one. It was the teaser trailer, not the actual trailer. So I didn't know what the plot was going to be like.
Until I suggested this to you, I knew nothing about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I'm not even sure I watched the trailer before I said, what about this? Because I think I sent you like 3 things. Like, what about any of these?
It was funny. As you sent it to me, I was like past the first act when you sent that to me. So it was just like perfect timing. I was just like, oh, great. Awesome. So at what point did you start loving? Because there was a specific point where I kind of like, oh, I'm understanding what this is. And it was the moment where the girl went
when she changed.
That was it? That was the moment where you realized, oh, I like this.
Yeah. So I liked when she was going into the, like when she introduced herself and going into the plot of like what she could do for him as basically his hench girl, his henchwoman, which was fun. But when she's telling him, "Hey, don't freak out," when she starts changing, I liked that because that's kind of when I felt like the movie opened up a little bit, and him seeing who she was, and you getting to see the comedy and kind of the real nature of what this movie was going to be about. And then almost getting to see the spectrum of like, here's some childlike jokes. Here's some jokes where we're talking about the size of someone's dick, right? Like, so
yeah,
I was like, I think I'm into this at that point. But you said
I think mine was mine was a little bit before that. I think the moment I liked was really the series of little mini scenes right before that where she's about to break him out and she's like, "Don't worry, I know the code." And then she just like types in the code and says access denied. So she just breaks it instead.
Yeah.
And then as they're walking through, him like sneaking through and her just like knocking things over while looking really bored and just like pouring coffee on like the console and stuff. It was just the way it was done. And I was thinking to myself, why is no one here? And then, they go to that room where they're all beat up. And she's like, they were like that when I got here. Which is like, okay, that was like a perfect execution of a joke. That was fantastic. And I understood sort of the tone they were going for.
Yeah, I like that whole sequence. There was also something else I noticed that kind of had me chuckling up until that point where she kept making these like weird random noises. So when she's pushing the buttons, she's making the noises of the buttons. And there are other little sounds that she's making that I'm just kind of like chuckling and giggling. I thought she was definitely. I like them both together.
Makes noises because they entertain her. It's like those types of things. Yeah, good detail. And yeah, Chloe Grace Moretz did really, really good in this. Like when I didn't even know she was in it until I looked up like while I was watching it. I'm like, who is that?
Yeah.
Who's doing that? They're like really expressive and really fun. And like the way she spoke really worked well at the very beginning. When she said he's perfect and gave the smile, I'm like, oh, that's a really good delivery of the line mixed in with the animation. And I was like, okay, that's Chloe Grace Moretz. No wonder she's great because Chloe Grace Moretz is great.
One of the other things that stuck out to me about that scene specifically was like, oh, this feels very Dungeons and Dragons-y. It's like we just got this scene, this escape from the castle, but I'm going to transform into 1,000 different things to accomplish that mission. But it worked. It still felt unique and different enough, but it was almost the same scene.
You talked a bit about the dichotomy of the adult stuff and the kid stuff. Do you think there was the kid stuff too much at times, or was the adult stuff too much at times? And what specific parts were you thinking, oh, this is for kids versus is this for kids? Like what two scenes do you think of?
I mean, I definitely that scene during the breakout. Like I said, when she's falling as the whale through the floors, she asks somebody, she's like, is it cold in here? Like, because she can see his cock and is like, your dick's small. And so I'm just trying to imagine the parent like, what do they mean, mommy? When like
the kids aren't going to notice that because I didn't even hear it until I watched it I watched this movie a second time. I didn't even hear that line until the second time. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that was one. And then there was something else. I don't think it made me think whether or not it's for kids, but it definitely felt more adult, like when she turned into the demon boy and the voice that she was using. I was like, that could be frightening if I was like 6 or 7. The way her teeth were like.
I think for me, the point where I was like, as far as being the quote unquote adult, was literally at the end. The conflict is, fuck, she's going to commit suicide. Literally commit suicide. It's about suicide.
No, Jammer, it's unalive herself. Unalive.
My bad. You're right. That's my bad. I want to make sure we're monetizable here. How long is it before unalive becomes unmonetizable? Because it's not going to, it means the same thing. But yeah, just the fact that literally is just like,
I wasn't being serious.
I'm just gonna like lean my body into this giant sword and have it pierce my heart. That's pretty dark.
It's metal.
God damn it. Before we got into this, we did talk about that one character, Todd, I think it was. Is that his name? Who
I think it's Todd.
For me, like, he was very much the kid character. Like, he was the one who would like bring things down, declassify the story with his stupid jokes. What did you think of him? Was he too childish? You seemed like you really liked him. I was actually, as I watched it,
I hated it. I hated him, but I enjoyed it. He's one of those characters like, I hate you, but you're just like really fun for me to hate. So like that opening scene at the beginning where he's like, hey, listen, I was really hard on you and I did this and I did that. And like, and Rizman's like, yeah. And he goes, oh no, that was it. You thought I was going to keep going? Like, no. I hate you.
Yeah. He's such a douche.
He's awesome.
Yeah, and
I love his
the
douchiness.
part where he was just like, where he physically described what like an earthquake was. He's like, the ground went blah, 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 blah. I was like, what the hell just happened? So stupid.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. I don't know. I like when they can hit the balance right for this character. Like, you're not really supposed to like this person, right? But they did well with that. So, did you ever see Wolfwalkers?
Yeah.
A lot of, especially when we get to like the flashback scene, it reminded me of the relationship between the two mains in that. And I was like, oh, okay. And that's really, I felt like I have a hard time saying that Wolfwalkers was for adults or for children. I felt like it could go either way, but it wasn't because the jokes were raunch. It just felt like a more mature story. Like my daughter, when she was 5 or 6, just watched it twice.
Not Nimona, Wolfwalkers.
Yeah,
I will say Wolfwalkers is more artsy.
Yep.
It's not as fun to watch.
No.
It's pretty, but it's not as fun to watch. It's more of a, for lack of a better term, somber movie.
Yeah. The thing that like, it just felt like a more mature film for more mature audiences.
Yeah,
so.
I believe that. I agree with that. I don't think the heart was there as much. I didn't connect as much with the characters as I did in Nimona, personally.
Okay.
But maybe that's just my immaturity. But as far as Nimona goes, what was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say. Damn.
Well, while you vamp and think about that, let me ask you a question. So at the end of this, we get a tease, right? There's this Iron Giant-esque question about, is she alive? Is she not alive? And then we find out, yeah, she's probably definitely alive in some form or fashion. Yeah, figured. Would you want to see a sequel to this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they talked a lot about the outside world. We never got to see the outside world.
Right.
So I think there's more to go to.
I got the impression, so I was very interested after I watched this, when I found out that this was based on a comic book. I didn't know that until we got to the end. I looked it up, and so the synopsis, it seems like we got what the story was for the comic book. So it seems like at this point, they can just do whatever they want for what happens next. And it diverges pretty significantly from the comic book as well.
Well, speaking of, I did pick up the comic after the fact.
Really?
I only read the first few chapters of it. There's significant differences from the get-go. Like, Boldheart is a villain.
Yeah,
a quote unquote villain and stuff. There are
Kills
lots
people.
of different changes. So I don't know where the story is going to go from there. So I just started.
Okay.
But as far as I guess it's a clean slate. But I know that the filmmaker is not the filmmaker, the graphic novel creator is involved in animation as well, not just the animation for this, but like animation in general. So like, I'm sure if they wanted, like they I think they were involved in She-Ra, the Netflix animated show She-Ra. And if they bring them in, they clearly have like the skills to know like maybe what is a good type of story to put the screen, where they can go, that way they can give it to the filmmaker. I think there's definitely potential there for a collaboration of sorts to expand on it.
Yeah. Okay.
And speaking of which, let's dive into a little bit of the history of Nimona. Nimona is an animated film with a tumultuous history. I mean, a lot of animated films have a tumultuous history. Just look up The Emperor's New Groove, and it's crazy. But this is different in that. Do it after the show, Jonesy, not now.
I'm gonna forget.
There is a really good God. It used to be called Toy Galaxy.
In the hot box. Oh no.
No, I was gonna say it used to be called Toy Galaxy, and now it's Secret Galaxy YouTube channel. And Dan Larson does the does the show. Anyways, he did a great video. They did a great video on Emperor's New Groove and all of the issues in production and how what you see on screen is nowhere near what that movie started out to be. So yeah, check that out if you like Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah. It originally was supposed to be closer to like The Lion King in terms of tone.
The Sweatbox.
The Sweatbox. That's it. That was an unreleased documentary that has been released, I think, on YouTube. You can probably find it other places where it's literally. It's the best kind
isn't
of
it a
documentary
good
that
thing you looked this
Kyle
up,
and me
Jones?
like,
Because I said the wrong thing.
Okay. Because Kyle and me like documentaries that are just like, here is like, we're pulling out the blood, sweat, and tears and showing it, as opposed to being like, hey, this is a great director. Hey, they're such a great actor. Hey, we did such a good job today.
Check it out.
Yeah. Anyways, Nimona, I can't speak to on that level of how things were, but there's a lot of studio shenanigans. So it originally was a Blue Sky production. They did Spies in Disguise, the pigeon one with Tom Holland and Will Smith. And then they were purchased by Disney because they were part of 20th Century Studios or 20th Century Fox back then. I think Disney essentially was assessing what they had to do with, and they're like, let's get rid of Blue Sky Studio and everything that you're working on, including Nimona. And after the fact, it was stated and revealed via various articles and insiders that one of the reasons why they decided to can Nimona along with it was that it was too gay for them, or at least for their brand. And that is kind of like a reason why or at least a factor into why they decided not to move forward with it. And then, of course, later on, picked up by Netflix last year, which actually puts into question in my head, how far along were they in production? Because I'm really curious about it. Like, because it looks good, and it's been about a year since it was picked up. Like, how quickly do they do the animation? And once again, I don't know the budget of this. I don't know what production timeline it had or anything. But if you look at, how this looks, it doesn't necessarily look Pixar quality, but because it's so highly stylized, it doesn't need to. And I think that they're basically like what I'm liking about animation these days, since, Into the Spider-Verse has come out, is that it doesn't have to be an arms race with budget anymore. It could just be like, just do a highly stylized creative thing, kind of like how Nintendo does with their visual styles. They don't compete at all with like PS5 or Xbox, whatever the hell they have these days. They just stylize their stuff in a way that is timeless and different and unique and stuff, so that it kind of holds up in a way. And I think that's what we're kind of starting to see things with, Into the Spider-Verse. So did you know about any of this history, Jonesy, before I just laid it out right there?
No, I looked this up after the fact. So in preparation for the show, I just looked some of this stuff up, and it started hitting my web browser. I was like, oh, did you see this? And you're like, yes. So did you know beforehand, or did you find this out after the fact? This
is the only reason I knew anything about this movie.
Really?
That's all I knew going into it, was this history behind it. And as a result, it gauged my interest, because I remember when it was canceled, and then I remember when it came back. So I was just like, I want to see the thing that was canceled and came back. That's what I want to do. And it ended up being really good. So no complaints here.
I'm really curious how it would have impacted Disney's image had it been them that released this movie rather than
I don't think
Netflix.
I'm sure there are a lot of people who would have freaked out, but also I wonder what it would have done to their animation slate, because I know they had Elemental just came out, not doing great. Then Lightyear didn't do very well last year. I mean, they're not really hitting on all fronts.
Strange
I wonder
Worlds
how it would have
bombed.
been to have something. Strange World
so many
bombed.
different things.
I wonder, it would have been interesting to have this come out, like what that would have been like. Like, hey, here's this new type of thing from them that's more arcane looking, or
it's kind of interesting
along the lines of Into the Spider-Verse.
I'm really curious about part of the narrative here, right? So if you look at what's happening with this film, with Nimona, there's this discussion about how Disney is very like, oh, you're giving lip service to the LGBT community, like you were talking about the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, and you also try to bury this movie. the same time, though, they also had a film, Strange New Worlds, that was released, and it was yet another first Disney homosexual character. And that film flopped. And so it's very...
Yeah,
I'm
you're right.
curious.
It didn't really do anything to the image at all from the message perspective that much,
Right.
anything.
But it's very interesting to me because it almost seems like, I don't want to defend Disney as a corporation. It seems almost like they're being treated unfairly, right? They had two films. One of them has an outright homosexual character, and no one seems to... How can I phrase this? This film, people are upset because it seems like Disney buried it for that reason. There was another film that they released, and was that in fact the issue, the reason why they buried it? I don't know.
Maybe not. That's
right?
a good point. That's a good point, because we don't know the exact reasons. That's just what hearsay was from the people working on the film. Anonymous people, if I'm not mistaken, who talked about it. And that's...
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it proved that Disney is able to have a gay character at the forefront and have it not be a huge issue. But then again, it flopped as well. But you could also say it flopped for
other reasons.
They buried Strange World, kind of. That was back when Chapek was in charge, and he was just like, animation, it's for kids only. We're going to go beyond animation. Blah, blah, blah. Fuck animation. I hate animation. I don't like drawing things. And then they did almost no advertising for that movie.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting to remember around about a year ago, Netflix said that they were going to slash their animation department. As a matter of fact, not just slash, like they were cutting people, they were letting people go. And so now this seems to be doing pretty well. It's 93 high. I'm curious what the watch hours on this are going to end up being.
Hopefully good. Like, I want people to see it. It's a fun movie. I think it's got good message. It's got a lot of emotion to it. Yeah, by the flashback with Nimona, I was just like, it was very predictable, but it was also, I think, worked very well.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And again, I just struggled with, like, who is this for? Is this for me, an adult? Then I can let the predictability go, and just enjoy it for what it was. Because what I did like about that, especially the flashback, despite the fact that it was predictable, it was done well. The silent animation style, like the no words for the most part. I think right up until the end, right? And I like that.
Yeah,
it's very artistic.
Like, as I was watching it, I was just like, "Oh, they're trying to out Pixar on this flashback. They're trying to pull at your heartstrings purely through visuals."
Yeah, and what's the old up? They tried to
the first 10 minutes of Up. They tried to up you. I don't think anyone says that, but I get the sentiment. But
they tried to up Disney.
God damn it! God.
Yes, I got it.
All right.
I made him angry.
I think that's all we have to say. I just like seeing animation continue to evolve. Everyone has Elemental seems to have proven no one wants the standard style of animation anymore, or at least people are getting sick of it. Of that Pixar style.
It's really interesting to me for a streaming service again that said that they were going to cut their budget for animation. Cyberpunk 2077, Arcane, and this. Like, there are things that they are putting out where I'm like, I would recommend this stuff to anybody and everybody. Like, if you like anything within here, if you like sci-fi, if you like fantasy stories, if you like, any of that, I would recommend one of these three things to you, if not all of them. So I hope that continues and that
Me too.
They do well picking good stuff.
Well, at least we know that, there's more Arcane coming. I don't know about Cyberpunk or the rest of it, but I mean,
so what I heard anecdotally was that with Cyberpunk, if they do another season, it would end up different cast of characters. So okay. I was actually I
haven't watched 2077 all the way through. I watched the first 2 episodes and I forgot. I'll get back into it. I liked it. I mean, I like the studio.
I really like the music too. The music is great.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
All right, well, let's hop into another one of our stories for today, specifically revolving around Public Enemy #1. No,
the most hated man in Hollywood.
Who is it?
David Zaslav.
Zaslav.
Figure out an evil way to say his name.
You just say the name Zaslav, and that's it.
Zaslav.
So he has been a very controversial figure in film for as long as he's been the CEO of Warner Bros. Discovery, which has been what, 9 months at this point? Has it been a year yet? But
I don't think so. No,
I don't know necessarily. It hasn't been a year, I don't think. But he's been cutting and slashing and shifting and all of the other, verbs that you can think of when it comes to destructive nature. HBO Max, or Max as it's called now, is having its content sort of rearranged. There's lots of issues with filmmakers not knowing where their shows or movies will ultimately land, or will they stick around? Like, what's going to happen? We don't know. And let's see here. So really quick, over 1 year it's been since April 2022. So it's been over a year.
Oh, okay.
Barely. He's been doing things in the name of making money for Warner Bros. Discovery, making them more sustainable, but at what cost, we must ask? And that cost seems to be at the cost of creativity, at the cost of, taking care of filmmakers. And there was an article that was posted on GQ, and there's a little bit of interference there, it seems like. So the article in question was how Warner Bros. Discovery CEO David Zaslav became public enemy #1 in Hollywood. So I'm pulling this from the Variety report, and it says that this was written by...
You sent me IndieWire.
Freelance... IndieWire? Okay.
Yeah, it's IndieWire.
IndieWire. All right, my bad. Hold on. Might be boo. I thought it was the wrong one. Let's see here. Well, let me pull that from the IndieWire one then.
Even the one that you guys sent in the Discord, which you guys should totally join, by the way.
So
I don't know if you're doing the quote, but the one that I saw is the most hated man in Hollywood.
I mean, there's been variations of that. The
Okay.
original article, because the article on GQ is how Warner Bros. Discovery CEO David Zaslav became public enemy #1 in Hollywood. I don't know. Hated. Where did you see that quote? Well,
so archive versions of the original and edited versions of the article show significant changes that had effect on softening the tone. A line calling Zaslav the most hated man in Hollywood was deleted. The Succession comparison was removed, as the segment where Bailey, who's the original author, called the reality show that Zaslav oversaw while running Discovery reality slop.
So essentially what you're seeing here is a shifting in the article followed by a deletion from GQ. So as Variety reported per the IndieWire article, one of the individuals contacted was reportedly GQ editor-in-chief Will Welch, who was attached as a producer to film the Great Chinese Art Heist, which is to be directed by John M. Chu, who did Crazy Rich Asians. And essentially, this seems to be a little bit of conflict of interest here, and maybe an evidence of a CEO throwing his weight around too much, to the point where it's pissing off everybody, including anyone who likes, journalism with integrity. And Warner Bros. Discovery spokesperson talked bad about the reporter and said, the freelance reporter made no attempt to reach out to Warner Bros. Discovery to fact check the substance of the piece before publishing, a standard practice for any reputable news outlet. As is also standard practice, we contacted the outlet and asked the numerous inaccuracies be corrected, which, as we talked about, there were changes to it. In this process of doing so, the editors ultimately decided to pull the piece. So then GQ's... Oh.
Sorry. So you said changes were made, but those changes were not substantive errors. Those were softening of the language, right? So there's a difference. Like they're saying inaccuracies and this, that, and the other. The differences that we've talked about thus far are just not necessarily painting Zaslav in a softer light, but softening the tone, not making him look like as much of a prick as he probably is based on what's happening here.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what those details are specifically, but then GQ actually had a spokesperson speak to Variety, and they said a piece published by GQ on Monday was not properly edited before going live. After revision was published, the writer of the piece asked to have their byline removed, at which point GQ decided to unpublish the piece in question. GQ regrets the editorial error that led to a story being published before it was ready. That's just, I mean, so from what I understand,
what you got, former editor-in-chief of a website. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's very clear that there's a connection there. He's going to be working with Warner Brothers, the editor-in-chief, and maybe Zaslav's like, hey, that's a pretty nice movie over there. It'd be a shame if something were to happen to it.
Yep. That's exactly how that phone call went. Hey, boyo, you think you're going to be working with John M. Chu? Unless that fucking story goes away.
Yeah. It's I don't know. We don't know. We don't know. Let's put that out there. We don't know. We're speculating based on information that we have in front of us, but it definitely seems like a where there's smoke, there's fire situation.
So here's
it could
thing that I
easily
find
be
kind of
vaping.
fascinating
It
about
doesn't
this
have
story.
to be fire.
It could be what?
They could be vaping. It doesn't.
It's still, but the thing is, it's still terrible for you. Here's my question. Here's what I find kind of fascinating about this. There's no accountability, right? There's no recourse for any of this. The only thing that I could see, and the GQ spokesperson was very good about what they said, right? They didn't libel the author of the piece. So this kind of was one of those things that will just go away, right? The news cycle will happen again, and nothing will come of this. But I do think that this is, to the point that you brought up about corporates getting involved, this is pretty bad as far as journalistic integrity goes. Anybody that was, I don't know who's looking at GQ to be like the standard bearer for news and ethics, but
yeah, it's usually
this strikes
like
me as not good at all.
Pieces. Like I think of GQ, I think of those those not necessarily fluff pieces, but like kind of.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And one thing I do want to know, I'm sorry, Kyle, I'm gonna have to quote the Variety article because it has a little bit more information that I want to pull from. But it talks about,
you guys are the worst.
Whoa. So one guy.
So the Welch, the editor-in-chief, they talk about, as a producer early on in development for movie, Welch would meet the criteria from Society of Professional Journalists Code of Ethics that says reporters and editors should, quote unquote, avoid conflicts of interest. What the hell, Siri? Did you guys hear that? My Apple Watch go off? No, okay, never mind.
Nope.
My Apple Watch started talking to me, so I had to stop her. Welch would meet the criteria from the Society of Professional Journalists Code of Ethics that say reporters and editors should, quote unquote, avoid conflicts of interest, real or perceived, and disclose unavoidable conflicts. Furthermore, journalistic best practices dictate that stories never just disappear and that any significant corrections be noted with full transparency. And
so then what?
I mean, because for instance, they pulled it all together, it seems clear that it's not normal circumstances, meaning that, yeah, it sounds more and more like where there's smoke, there's fire.
Well, I guess what I mean is, so the things that you talked about, that language is very similar to the ethical standards that I have as an attorney, right? So the appearance of impropriety and things of that nature. The difference is, and this is the question I was going to ask you, is there's a recourse. There's the possibility of someone makes a charge against me like, hey, this guy did XYZ because of XYZ and blah, blah, blah. I could lose my bar license. What's the recourse here for Mr. GQ, if any?
I don't see any.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the only recourse there would have been, who's going to sue him? Who's going to do, what's the recourse there?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that would have been is that if the article remained up, if Zaslav decided to take legal action, but it's gone now. It's taken down. That's been addressed. Whatever potential is there. And now who's going to, what is it? Is it going to be a freaking class action lawsuit or something against GQ? I don't know.
I don't know. I just find it interesting that Welch can have that conflict of interest and then go on to produce this film and nothing. Means nothing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What else? Anything else?
That's it for that. Let's talk a little bit about One Piece. So One Piece is a new series coming.
Wait, I'm sorry. Hold on.
Live action series coming to Netflix. Guys, we're talking a lot about Netflix these days. Netflix is kind of a big deal.
I need my straw hat if we're going to be talking about One Piece.
Oh, okay. Look at that. That's
I don't
cute.
know a lot about One Piece, but I know there are straw hats.
You've read a good amount of One Piece. You've read over 100 chapters of One Piece. You know enough.
Out of 1,000.
enough.
Out of 1,000,
but you know,
that is a drop in the motherfucking bucket. Sir, yes. Go ahead.
You know enough. You know enough for this first season of the series, which is going to cover the East Blue Saga. And as somebody who is obsessed and has been obsessed with One Piece since the early 2000s, this brings me a lot of joy on some level that it's going to be coming to live action. I'm not sure still where I stand with regards to the trailer. I know when I first watched it, I was just like, "Oh my god, this looks so bad."
They're wearing you down.
Nowadays, I've watched it several more times. It sounds like it. That's the thing, and I'm out to the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna have to wait before I judge it because it's so weird and jarring to watch that I'm like, there's no point in me trying to judge it now. I'm just gonna have to wait on it. But I'm not sure if you've all seen the comments online with regards to the trailer and the series as a whole. I know one thing Kyle said to me is he was shocked at how positive the reception has been because the trailer, like I said, I was embarrassed watching the trailer initially. I was just like, oh no. And then I go on to online and everyone is just like, it looks pretty good. Wow, that doesn't look too bad. Ba-da-da-da-da.
It was weird. But hey, a lot of people thought Cowboy Bebop looked good as well. So they weren't necessarily.
I like the way it looked visually.
I think the trailer did look good,
but they thought the trailer looked good, and then it didn't hit for everyone. So we'll see how it goes.
Got boring.
No one except Jammer.
No one what?
You said you liked. Don't say it was boring. You liked it.
I peered off at the end. I said that in my review that I got bored near the end. Yes, I did.
I don't remember.
You can go back. You can go back.
Like
I thought I liked the style quite. Here's what I do remember.
I'm gonna backdoor this.
I liked its style, but even though I didn't feel like it, I like its style is fun and I like it, but it doesn't feel like Cowboy Bebop at all to me. And that it's awful. Steam, and Vicious was boring. Every scene with Vicious, I was like, oh no, why? Why are we back with him? He's so boring. But anyways, I think what is clear is that they are gaining public or good faith with the fans, and they've been doing a lot of moves really that prove that they're, in terms of the visual style, which fans really seem to like. The cast, they seem to have nailed with the main crew members. And most recently, there was an announcement at Anime Expo where Kyle was. He was present. He was nearby as they announced this information. And I think it's pretty cool. So it looks like the main voice acting cast for Japan for the anime will be voicing the characters in the Japanese dub of the live action series. And I think what this is like a microcosm of all of the little things this series is doing to gain favor with all of the fans. So, I mean, I think that's kind of a cool thing. I'm sure that'll be fun. I'll definitely switch on the Japanese dub just to kind of see what that sounds like. Just like, oh, it sounds like the anime. That's kind of cool. But Jonesy, as somebody who's a little bit more on the outside, who's read a mere 100 some odd chapters of One Piece, I'm just curious, what were your thoughts of the trailer? Out of 1,000, what were your thoughts of the trailer and about this news?
It looks fine. It kind of reminded me of the live action version of Full Metal Alchemist, which I don't recall being particularly good. Like that would, like, in terms of style, that's what it reminded me of. So I don't know. Could be good. Could be. I don't think I have enough. I don't have enough skin in the game to gauge how good this is. But here's what I will tell you. It's kind of funny. The last thing you were saying about the voice acting, it reminded me of Cowboy Bebop in that I remember how excited I was when they were like, hey, we're bringing back Yoko Kanno to do the music for Cowboy Bebop. When you think about Cowboy Bebop, it's impossible to think animation, cast, music. Like at some point, the music is easily in your top 3 things about that show. And so I was super excited. So I'm thinking about what you're talking about, the outreach that they're doing to fans and how excited the fans are about the voice actor and how exciting this could be. And I'm like, I guess I've been there.
I don't know. I guess for me, the big difference
like I said, it feels very first time. The meme, the James Franco. Right. So like some
James
corporate
Franco.
entity does a thing for, he was
James
the one that
Franco?
said it. Of
Is
course
that
it
me?
was.
Is that him?
Jesus
all right,
Christ.
All right, calm down.
Oh my God.
I think it's funny. I just imagine the that one guy whose name I
Who'd you
can't
think
remember.
it was?
Who was it? That guy from like all of those movies. He's also in Bulls. He also is from the
Shia
Watchmen
LaBeouf,
series.
Mutt.
He played
Mutt.
the mirror. He played the mirror face.
Mutt.
And no, he's not Mutt.
I know who you're talking about. You said Holes, and I just want to say Mutt.
Okay. Move on. I got nothing else to say about this. Do you have anything else to say about One Piece? I'm looking forward to the show. We'll see if it sucks. Hopefully it doesn't. Let's move on to another.
I'm going to wait patiently for your review.
Okay.
Patiently waiting for your review. When you tell me if it's good or bad, I will.
Oh, maybe I could make this for the show. We'll see. Watch all 10 episodes for the show, or 8 episodes.
I feel like that should be the game, right? Like you say, this is what we're going to do for this episode of the show, and then we'll see how far you make it. Right. And so I'll come in, like, I will have watched 3. Danny will have watched 0. Nick will be like, I couldn't find my remote.
There we go. And I would be like, I watched the whole thing and I hated it.
Oh, yeah. So there's that. What else? Anything else on One Piece?
No, nothing else on One Piece. I'm interested to see where it goes. And I think, like I said, I guess the first time thing, good faith stuff. It all just matters about how they execute the story and whether or not it looks good. It does concern me, though, considering that there's apparently $18 million budget per episode. Based on what we've seen, it doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it, but
I mean, it's a stylized $18 million.
It is a stylized $18 million. So that's basically a normal $5 million.
So we're done with One Piece. Can I take off my straw hat?
Take off your straw hat and put on your mustache.
I can't. You know what I have? I have my Richmond jersey, but it's in the wash. Fuck.
Well, what do you got for us? As far as, I know you got some Ted Lasso-ness that you want to talk about.
Jammer. I brought a clip.
You brought a clip?
I always want to say that. I wouldn't always get to talk about actors who brought clips. I'm not an actor, but I did bring a clip. So recently, I had an opportunity to sit down with a lot of the cast from Ted Lasso. One of them in particular was Jeremy Swift, who plays Leslie on the show. And what was fun was getting to ask him about something that came up. So I don't know if you guys saw it, but Nick Mohammed put up he retweeted a photograph that Apple sent out, and it was of Coach Beard and Roy Kent. And who does Nick play? Oh my God, his name just jumped out of my head. Who's Nick Mohammed?
I don't know the names of the
actors. Oh my God.
Sorry.
God damn it, you're killing me. Anyway, so he retweeted this photograph, and he put a zip over the emoji, meaning like I can't talk about it. And so there's been a lot of speculation as to whether or not. Thank you, Nate. I think that's part of it. Nate. My brain couldn't. And so there's been speculation as to whether or not we will either get an AFC Richmond show, or we will get like an AFC Richmond women's show, because that was also teased spoilers for Ted Lasso, at the end of season 3. And so there's that. Plus, there's also this kind of like fun. I saw in an IGN article, people are latching onto this one thing. So the book that was being written about the team by Trent said, hey, really great, no notes except change the name. It was never about me. And so people are latching onto that to say like, hey, change the name of the show and we can continue, we can move on. And so I brought that clip of Jeremy Swift answering the question as to whether or not there's going to be another one. A little bit, probably maybe sad news in there, at least as far as he's concerned, or what he thinks is going to happen. But I'll leave it there. Go ahead and watch that clip. And then, yeah, there's that. Jammer, question for you. Given what you saw from season 3, would you want to see another season of not Ted Lasso? Let's call it AFC Richmond.
Yeah, I would. And the reason why I mentioned this to you in my review of or discussion, I didn't make a review of it, but when we were discussing season 3, it kind of felt like they were segueing Ted out of the show pretty hard. He had become pretty complacent, for lack of a better word, passive, very not proactive in a way. It was a little frustrating, but it almost kind of felt like, man, you did everything you could do in the first 2 seasons. And it was just kind of like, all right, well, I did all I could. They need to take it from here type of thing. I can't do anything else. And it was a little bit frustrating, but it made it so that it felt like the show was more well-rounded with all the different full cast of characters, to the point where I could see a show completely without Ted Lasso. So I feel like we already got glimpses of that in season 3. And I would be down to watch for it in an AFC Richmond show. And I think that would be kind of poetic to be able to transition from Ted Lasso to AFC Richmond. They could just call it the Richmond Way. Who knows, right?
They could call it the Richmond Way. And then you wouldn't even necessarily have to decide, are you getting a men's club or a women's club? It could be the same show. This could be the show, Jerry. Jammer.
This is it. Did you just call me Jerry? Was that on purpose? What the hell was that?
It was.
Okay.
But you pointed it out, so you made the joke not work.
I did, sorry. But yeah, I would be up for it. What about you?
I'm really interested. I love the cast. So if you're interested, I can ask Kyle to post the link to the remainder of the interview. So this is a roundtable that had folks like Bumbercatch and Zorro and Zorro, as well as Trent, Krem. And so getting to see them as, just themselves interacting with each other was a lot of fun and made me want more of the show. They were a fucking riot, not gonna lie. So they were fun to talk to. So there is a 30-minute interview. So I think this clip is probably like 2 minutes, but there's a 30-minute roundtable where all those guys are just like yucking up and laughing. So I got to do that as part of the African American Film Critics Association. So it's a lot of fun. It's a good time. So check it out.
All right.
Well, anything else?
No, I think
shut it down.
Let's shut it down. Shut her down.
Cut the check. We haven't cut the check in a long time. We got to cut the check. I miss that. I miss cutting the check. Anyway, folks, if you like what you heard, do all the socials. Like, rate, comment, subscribe, share. We would definitely appreciate it. Also, LRM and the Genreverse Podcast Network have great content, but where else? LRM Online and YouTube. Jump on Discord and let us know. Do you want to see a Ted Lasso show? Have you seen Nimona? What did you think? Do you think Ted
Zaslav?
David Ted Zaslav, is he a prick? Is he a bigger prick than David Zaslav? I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah, join us on next one. What are we doing next week? Are we doing Barbie next week? Is it Barbie? Barbie the thing?
That is the ultimate question. Oh no, Mission
That is
Impossible.
the ultimate question. Is that next week? Oh, that is next week. When are we watching Barbie? Everybody's talking about these Oppenheimer Barbie memes. I want to get on this. I want to see what the
Are we
deal
gonna
is.
watch?
But
Are we gonna watch Oppenheimer or Barbie?
Are we doing Barbieheimer? Are we doing both?
Dude, you're not going to get me to watch a 3-hour movie in addition to another movie.
We'll pick one. All right, but the mission is next. Mission Impossible next week. Come back. We'll see you then. Hasta lasagna.
Don't get any on ya.